painting this very simple and easy piece to do. I've got some cold press watercolor paper, taped it down with some low tack masking tape. I've got a smallish brush. I'm using Kuretake paints in greens and yellows, and I'm just making some shapes onto the page. I'm leaving a gap in between all of the shapes and also between the shapes and the masking tape, just sort of for them to intertwine each other. I've got no plan, I just know that I just want to do this kind of pattern. I haven't seen it done before, so I thought I would just try it out and see what happens. The patterns sort of remind me of that game called Tetris. I don't know whether you remember that. And you have to fit the shapes together, so that's what it reminds me of. Alternating the colours as I go. I want pops of yellow here and there and the different greens. So you just have to be mindful where you're putting the colour. This kind of art really gets you in the zone. You're just concentrating on what you're doing and putting down the colour. It really is good for the soul. It's a really good piece if you're a beginner just getting used to watercolour paints, and you can just try them out on a little pattern like this to see how they work and how you feel about them. Don't worry too much if you don't get straight lines. I must admit my lines aren't very straight, but what we're going to do, we're going to get a black pen and tidy those lines up. You can get a fine liner pen to tidy the lines up, or you could get something thicker like a black marker if you felt that your lines were really untidy. That would really give it a nice sharp look to your edges. You can really get lost in this painting. It's a little bit like a maze, so you're trying to find out which way to go really with your paints, trying not to overlap. So there is a little bit of thinking going on so that they interlock with each other. But it is very easy to do, so I think, anybody could do this with any level of skill. It's just a very relaxing piece to do. Like I said, you just get lost in it, really. And it does take a little bit longer than my usual paintings just because of the concentration and trying to get them to interlock. I mean, as you can see, this is all sped up. But I didn't want you to get too bored, so I sped it up so that you can just see the process. Once you've completed your piece, you will need to let it dry before you put your black marker or your fine line pen on it. And I'm just outlining each of the shapes just to tidy up those edges and just to make it look a little bit more bolder than what it already does. If you're really good at straight lines and you have that precise kind of hand, you might not need to do that. Your edges might be perfect, and that would be brilliant if you don't need to do that. Again, the outlining takes a little bit of time to complete and a bit of concentration to follow the lines and not go over the edges. If you do sort of miss the edge or whatever, just sort of colour it in. If it's on the dark, you won't tend to see it. You'll see it more if it's on the yellow because you can really see that black mark. In between the shapes now, just doing some little lines to connect them all. You might not want to do lines, you could maybe do bubbles or zigzags, any shapes that you want, or you might like it just as it is and you don't feel that you need any more. I was just enjoying myself so much that I just thought, well, what can I do now? I want to continue, so I thought, right, I'll do these little connecting lines to connect all the shapes together. I hope you like this. If you do like this, and you could subscribe, or maybe you could like, or you could leave a comment. I always respond to comments, so I would love to hear from you. And maybe give a review of how you felt this video went. How could I improve? Did you enjoy it? What projects have you been doing? Any information would be great. I'd love to just hear from you. The pen I'm using to go around the patterns and also to do these little lines is a Uni Pen 0.5, and that is fade and water resistant, So if your painting is slightly wet, it's not going to get all muddy with black pen spreading over your colour. So continue to the end, and when you feel as though you've done all of that patterning in between your shapes, if you've got a stencil, that would be great. I'm using a black acrylic paint marker here, and it's an oval stencil. I'm just making some marks over the top of the original pattern. I quite like this oval stencil. I thought that the pattern looks so different from the pattern underneath that I thought that it would be good to layer this on top. So that's exactly what I'm doing, layering on top. If you haven't got a stencil, just find something to draw around. That would be good enough. I'm just rounding off edges here so there are no sharp edges on these patterns. I have some white acrylic paint and a dibber, and I'm just dabbing some dots onto the black acrylic paint marker. You could use something like a cotton bud, end of a paintbrush, or any pointing kind of implement. When you finish putting your dots on, get your black acrylic pen again, outline the edges of your masking tape, just putting a little bit of pressure on there, and then adding some dots to that edge. When you peel away the masking tape, it will leave a lovely clean edge and it will frame your picture really nicely. So that is the reason that I do that, and I tend to do it on most of my paintings. Hope you've enjoyed that, and thanks for watching. I hope to hear from you and hope to see you soon. Okay then, bye, have a good day.